of everyone is different. So he says, no doubt that they all have feelings, elevated feelings, but the one is most elevated who is the highest, knowledgeful one. The highest knowledgeful one, their feeling is the most elevated and is merged in godly love. The Jnani souls, knowing and understanding, having this realization of the Supreme and what spirituality is, that is why it is said, religion and spirituality, they are two different things. Spirituality takes us above religion. It creates that universal feelings towards all. It is such an elevated path where no boundaries, no limitations can limit us. So when they have this realization of the spirituality in its true sense, they start loving God as He is. And they are loved by God also. It reciprocates. When the feelings are there, the response is also experienced. Whatever type of feelings we have, accordingly, the reciprocation is there. So he says that they are merged in godly love because I am most loved by Him and He is most loved by me. I consider Him to be equal to me because He stabilizes on my direction with a faithful intellect. He is under my protection in the last birth of His many births. That soul which is so elevated is under my protection in his last birth of this cycle, that is Kali Yuga. And in this Kali Yuga, the last phase which is going on, so this is the last birth. So in the last births of many births, such a great soul is very rare to be seen and to be found in the world. And then he further says, the ones whose intellect has been influenced by desires, the tatir, take shelter of the deities. Normally, such businessmen, they worship Lakshmi, the deities, Ganesh. So they take the shelter of the deities. So here God clarifies the difference between the Supreme and the deities. They are not one. He is not the incarnation of all deities. The Supreme is beyond birth and death. He is beyond the cycle, beyond the dualities of human life. The deities are divine beings who take birth, who come on this world, who go through the dualities, who perform action, who take the fruits of the action also, experience the fruit of the action also. But Supreme is beyond action and reaction. So here he is clarifying the difference between the Supreme Soul and the divine beings. So those people, they take the shelter of the deities. Even the earth people who are suffering, for them also it is very easy to take the image of any bodily being. So they also take the image of any deity and they remember him. Only the knowledgeful souls who have understood and realized what spirituality is and have had God realization, they are the only ones. That is why he said, out of the thousands, only a few are able to realize my reality and come under my shelter and take my protection. But the rest, they take the shelter of the deities to fulfill their desires. They follow the method of worship. So the knowledgeful ones, they focus their attention, meditation, concentration on the Supreme. While the others who does not have God realization take the shelter of the divine beings and they worship because they do not know the path of meditation. They do not know the path of how to love God, because the love is for money. The love is for, the desire is for materialistic comforts. So they cannot merge themselves in God's love. So they take the path of worship. This is the difference. So they follow the method of worship according to their respective nature and fulfill their desires. But the reality is that all the attainments, now here a very deep karma philosophy is explained. The reality is that all the attainments are bestowed through me only. Those divine beings, they do not have the power to fulfill their desires. But because they remember God in form of the deities, so the reality is that the attainments are bestowed through me only, or through that medium of divine being. The ones with a limited intellect worship the deities because their intellect cannot go beyond an image. They need an image. So they cannot think. They think, how can we think of nothing? God not having an image. So they can't think of God being the incorporeal, the supreme being the incorporeal. So they want a sakar form. So because their intellect is limited and they cannot come out of that limitation, so they worship the deities, and so the fruit they receive is also limited and monetary because they have desired for that only. So that is how they receive. Then the question that Arjuna asks is, why are human beings not aware of God? In fact, this science and this realization God is giving to Arjuna because he is also not realizing God's reality. He is seeing Krishna only. And he is feeling he is my friend. So he also have not understood the reality of God. So he says, why are human beings not aware of God? So God explains, all the living beings of the world are held by the attachment due to the conflict of desire and hatred, and therefore they do not know me. When they are in the bondage of hatred, conflict, desires, they are not able to know me. Attachment. Human beings who lack the intellect believe me to be in a corporeal form. Very clearly he states, human beings who lack the intellect of understanding God believe me to be in the corporeal form. They do not know that I am beyond birth and rebirth. Now see, Krishna is not saying these words because he has taken birth. So he cannot say these words. So there is some different entity in the medium of Sri Krishna who is uttering these words. Who says they do not know that I am beyond birth and rebirth. And actually he is trying to make Arjuna also realize that you are also not realizing my reality. Because he is seeing the corporeal form only. And not able to realize there is somebody else speaking through this medium. And then he says, they do not know that I am beyond birth and rebirth, eternal and supreme, because I don't reveal myself in front of everyone. I don't reveal myself in front of everyone. I know the three aspects of time, the past, present and future. And then he says, then who can know God? So then God says, those who perform charitable actions, punya karma, whose sins are incinerated, who are liberated from the attachment, arising from the conflict of love and hatred, and remain determined in their promise. Concentrate their mind on me and will realize at the end, even Arjuna will realize when the eternal form the vision of the eternal form, which is more powerful than thousands of suns gathered together in the sky, then only he will get the realization. So he says, they concentrate their mind on me and will realize at the end that I am the controller of complete spirituality, divine action, materialistic world, deities, and the rituals of the yajna. Very clearly, a very significant science is revealed by God. So in the 8th chapter, Akshar Brahma Yoga, on the basis of what God has explained in the 7th chapter, Arjuna has 7 questions in his mind. So in the Akshara Brahma Yoga, God stresses on the science of yoga. He reveals the secret that a person receives salvation according to his state of mind at the time of his death. Along with the knowledge of the day of Brahma and the night of Brahma, he also clarifies about the difference between corporeal and incorporeal, and the 2 paths of leaving this materialistic world. So, from verse 1 to verse 7, 7 questions of Arjuna and their answers. From verse 8 to verse 16, the process of meditation, while being the embodiment of yoga, being the form of yoga. And from verse 17 to verse 22, the day of Brahma and the night of Brahma, and the description of Paramdham, the supreme abode. From verse 23 to verse 28, the topic of the Shukla path and Krishna path, the fortnight and the dark half of the lunar month. So the 2 ways through which people go from this materialistic world when they leave their body, that is clarified. So the 7 questions are, when he says, O Purushottam, Purush means the soul, and Uttam means the highest. So one who is highest amongst the soul, not the bodies. One who is highest amongst the souls. O Purushottam, what is Brahma? What is spirituality? What is a charitable action? What is the materialistic world? What is a deity? Who is the creator of yajna? And how is he in a human body? How does he come in a human body? If he is incorporeal, if he is beyond birth and death, how can he come and establish a yajna? And the 7th question is, how does one come to know about you through a self-discipline at the time of death? So these are normally the questions of us also, which is clarified by God. Each and every question so beautifully, to the point, in an essence. And he says, what is Brahma? The first question. Brahma is that which is immortal, eternal, and divine conscient element. It is not the supreme. It is an element. We have the world of 5 elements, and it is the 6th element which is divine, which is immortal, which is eternal. So it is an element. That is not God. That is a place where all the souls reside. And even the supreme soul resides in that abode, in that element. So he says, Brahma is that which is immortal, eternal, and divine conscient element, the law of which can never change is Brahma element. In this world of 5 elements, the law of nature is affecting. So there is a constant change.